The next story is by Markuz Wernli, and his bio, which he wrote to me, is a Swiss-born artist who often works with food, personal habits, and communication strategy to instigate unusual relationships. I myself underlined the word instigate. I don't know why that strikes me as instigating. Anyway, relationships. Some of his projects recently were, and just the titles of these get me going here. Thank you notes to the garbage man. Growing radishes with 30 families. Okay. The story tonight is called Mente Fresco, did I pronounce that correctly? An artistic experiment on perpetual first impressions, routine and suspended relationships. I think I'm not going to do this justice as you just come out. Thank you, Markuz.
Hello, everybody. I'm actually not a man of words. I'm much more a visual guy, and I don't want to hear only my own voice here. I would like to engage 5 volunteers with a very, very simple assignment. I've got here printouts of photographs of 5 persons, and there's a sentence attached to each person, and I would like to have you read it later in the second part of my presentation. So I would like to have 4 women volunteers and 1 man volunteer. It's a really easy assignment. The only thing I'm asking for you is to read this sentence that's printed here. So, okay, we have 1 man. Perfect. Here. Okay. 1. I have 3 more women. It's easy. It's English. It's not in Japanese. Okay. 1 more woman. Perfect. Okay. It's just 1 sentence. You will see. All right. So, yeah, I'm not, as I said, I'm a visual artist, and I like to have images. They help me. So this is image number 1. It says in Italian, sono un turista. So this project started with me having aversions, being a tourist. I don't like to be a tourist. There's all kinds of negative connotations attached to it, I think. There's a certain superficiality to it. You go to a place, you go usually to these big landmarks that's written down in a guidebook, and then you get a first experience, but you don't go really deep. So I was thinking, okay, I want to be a tourist. Can I be a super tourist? Can I be a perpetual tourist? So I hacked out a plan where I made an application for an artist residency in Sardinia, in a very small town called Villa Sor. It's in the southern part of this little island. It's a pretty nondescript place, but I did some research and I decided, okay, I'm going to make an application. I'm going to suggest an art project where I'm going to make a tour. It was a 4-week project, and this little town had 1 little landmark, which is a castle. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to explore that castle. But before I go to the castle, I have different places I want to go. So what I would do is, for the duration of 4 weeks, every day I would go to the same place. Every day, the first impression, the same impression. So I called this project Mente Fresco, which means the blank mind. So I would go to these places, do the very same thing, ask for the very same things. I had an Italian artist translating me everything in Italian, because I don't speak Italian. So I had a script where I just would ask at my first stop, which would be the kiosk, the newsletter kiosk. I just would ask for a postcard of that little town. And it had to be that town, nothing else. That was my first stop. And after I would leave the store, I would leave a palm leaf, and I would add some salt on top of it, without any comments, just in front of the door, like this. A little pile of salt on top of a palm leaf. Nobody knew what this was about. The next stop, and we're talking about, this is a 300 soul village, really small town. The next stop would be, of course, at the cafe bar, because it's in Italy. They have nice cafe, and it was in the morning. So I would go there and ask for an espresso. Also, I would write my postcard. The third stop, of course, to complete my postcard, I need a post stamp. I would go to the post office and ask for one single post stamp every day for 4 weeks. And of course, leave some salt in front of the post office on a palm leaf. And then I would go to the center of town where there's a piazza, a square, where you see elders, signore, elder gentlemen hanging out, some with more or less alcohol in their blood. And I would ask for the nearby castle, which was very obvious. It was just like 200 meters away, but I would just ask. And I tried to ask always the same people, which was difficult, because there's kind of a migration of people on that square. Then finally, I would end up at the castle. It's a very small castle, and there would be actually the highlight of every day. There I would ask for a guided tour, which doesn't exist, but I would just pop out of the blue, and I try to be there at the same time as possible and ask for a guided tour. After the guided tour, I would go back to the center where all the artists are located, and I would write a diary, a journal, a kind of visual journal where I would write whom I met, what was talked about, what were my impressions. So, that's the setup of the project. In the end, after the 4 weeks, I go fast forward, I would collect all my impressions, everything I learned, and would offer the ultimate super tour of the castle, with everything I learned, all the stories and all the episodes. So let's hear about what were responses. And then I would like to elicit your questions. If you have any questions, this is up to you. I would like to have a dialogue rather than telling you everything. You can ask me and I will share everything. So let's hear about the kiosk owner, Roberta.
He insisted on buying a postcard exclusively from Villasor. I started worrying after a week when I ran out of options. On a rainy day, I suggested a card with lots of green. On a sunny day, with lots of blue. It made me consider the small things that make this town special. Roberta Pistis, owner ABC Kiosk.
Thank you. Very good. Perfect. So Roberta, she ran out of option like after the 5th day. It's a small town. They have only certain series of postcards. And she could not understand why I wouldn't buy the postcards from the north of Sardinia, where the beaches are, where the tourist resorts are. But I kept insisting, no, I want to have this town, because I'm here. I'm only here for 1 day. Okay, we have other people. Yes, here. Yes, historical.
Markuz is a terrorist. The information he acquires here seems to be erased at the end of each day. I wonder if Markuz is learning how to remember things again. I rose to the occasion and told him lesser known aspects of Sardinian culture and personal matters. Colette Puddy, historian, Castello Siviglia.
Very good, thank you very much. So Coletta was an employee at the castle. The castle hosts a public library. And she was always there, every day there. Sometimes she tried to avoid me, but sometimes she couldn't. And she has back pains. And I think one of the best episodes was during these 4 weeks, her birthday came up. And it was a big thing for her. And she kept reminding me every day. Like, next week is my birthday. And there I had to make a compromise. I mean, So I arranged at the time when there was her birthday coming that day. I mean, officially I could not admit that I know about her birthday because I just live on this one particular day. There's no past, there's no future for me. So I had a friend, an artist, an Italian artist, coming with me, bringing a little present. And kind of he did the little ceremonial thing for her birthday. So it was kind of a gesture there. I had to make a compromise. Coletta was very interesting. In the beginning it was for her really difficult to accept that I'm coming every day. I mean, she's paid to do something else. She's paid to run a library but not doing a guided tour for me. And so she started to take advantage of it and because she has a strong political opinion. So the castle is not that spectacular. I mean, don't expect it's like a museum with stuff. It's empty. It's just a void. They relocated all the artifacts and old furniture to the capital of Sardinia. So she takes these tours, and every day she puts up a topic. And one day I remember she talked to me about corruption in Sardinia. So we went around the castle, and she showed me recent restorations that took place in the castle. And she was all about this, and her English was so, but I got along with her Italian, and she made it really clear and really hands-on. She demonstrated where the issues are and how they use cheap materials to renovate that historical castle. So, and another day she took her time and hijacked me because she's a historian, and she's very proud of that little town and its history. So one day she takes me by the hand, basically, to the city archive, to the city hall, to the cellar, to the basement there, and then she shows me historical documents, which she finds very important, and it took like 2 hours. So, more comments. There were more people.
I gave Marcus the same castle tour in Italian about a dozen times. Crazy as it was, it made me a better communicator. Because of the language barrier, I had to engage on a much more personal level. Michela Onis, librarian at the castle.
Thank you very much. Michela gave me about 5 tours. She was the only one who went strict to protocol. Her tour was almost every time the same. It was amazing. For Michela, it was a way to improve her English. It was interesting. The first tours were all in Italian, full Italian, and since I speak some French, I could get by. You understand about 50% when coming from French. But then she used these tours to improve her English, which is amazing, within these 4 weeks. So that was kind of her story. So it was interesting to see how these people that were facing me every day, and it was an imposed relationship. They had no choice. They could not really escape. How they tried to do the best out of it and became creative. That was the whole point, actually. So we have another person.
On some mornings, when Marcus was late, we asked ourselves, where is he today? Why didn't he come yet? We started to worry. Antonino Kiki, archivist, Castella Sille.
Wonderful, thanks so much. Yeah, Antonino gave me actually a big problem. So in the second week in, he started to do some research because he likes to use computers, he's very web savvy. And there I discovered that I made a mistake setting up the project because I was part of an artist group, so my name was in there. So he knew my name, they figured out my name, and by that he found out that I have a track record of doing strange things or performances. So after the second week, they knew that they're into something serious, or that probably I'm coming back for the rest of that month. So that was a bit. So next time, if I do the project again somewhere else, I will make it under a pseudonym. I will use a different name for sure.